Welcome back. This is part two of the banana boat. So the prosecutor has told the judge what the people intend to prove. Um, didn't put on any evidence at that point, but that's what he said was going to happen. During the break, the evidence was put on. So let's just assume, because I want to streamline this and make this as quick as possible, let's just assume that the judge has heard the prosecution side of the story. So after that, every story has two sides or three sides. Sometimes, there's your side, there's my side, and the truth, which is usually in between. He asked the guy with his public defender to tell their version of what happened. And so the guy stood up and said, I'm prepared to tell you, Your Honor, it's been a heck of a day. You see, it started, I was working on this banana boat, and the boat went out of business, and I got this pink slip to get another job. I couldn't read the slip, so I asked a lady on the street. She went, and fainted. Then this man, he started beating on me. A cop broke it up, sent me to the police station where I was booked. I dealt with the desk sergeant, who decided to press charges. He sent me to this fine lawyer, this public defender, who suggested that I plead guilty and throw myself on the mercy of the court. And the judge says, so you're pleading guilty? Well, yes, Your Honor. I trust my lawyer. He said I should plead guilty. The judge says, all right, well, if you're pleading guilty, I'll take that guilty plea, and I'll just sentence you. And the guy says, well, that's fine, but don't forget I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the court, so have mercy with me. The judge says, well, I just have one question. Can I see the slip? And the guy says, sure, why not? So he gives the judge the slip. Judge opens it up, looks at it, folds it back up. Guy puts it in his pocket, as he's done every time, although I may not have said that. The guy still has the slip. I'm not exactly sure how that happens, because usually when you get arrested and you get booked, you don't keep that stuff, but just for the sake of the story, the guy still has the slip. And so he's got the slip. The judge has now read it, and the judge says, okay, I've now heard all the evidence. I accept your guilty plea. I've looked at the slip, and I'm prepared to render or impose my sentence. The guy says, okay. The judge says, before I impose the sentence, would you like to make a statement? And the guy says, okay, if that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not used to this, but sure, I'll make a statement. Statement is, Your Honor, it's been a heck of a day. You see, I was working on this banana boat, and the boat went out of business, and I got this pink slip to get another job. I couldn't read the slip, so I asked a lady on the street. She went, and fainted. Then this man, he started beating on me. A cop broke it up. He brought me in. I got booked. I went to the desk sergeant who pressed charges. I went to the lawyer, and here I am in trial. But I plead guilty. I throw myself on the mercy of the court. You've seen the slip. Would you like to see it again? The judge says, no, that's all right. I'm prepared to impose my sanction, my punishment, my penalty, if you will. I'm going to rule. I'm going to adjudicate. I'm going to make my judgment. The guy says, all right, get on with it. The judge says, we find you guilty, and we sentence you to immediate and sudden and irreversible death. Okay. So they take him away, and I could take up more time, but I think I'm only limited to 10 minutes and 59 seconds because there were appeals. People don't just go right to death. Of course, if the court finds them guilty and finds them capital punishment, death, and all that, it's pretty serious stuff. There's a chance to take it to an appellate level and several levels of appeal and all sorts of different things. Let's assume, for the sake of brevity, that all that happened and I told you all about it. So we'll just fast forward. Okay, so here we are. Guy's been sentenced to death by execution. So he goes to see the executioner. And the executioner comes in and wants to check out the victim, the intended executionee, a.k.a. the guy. And so he starts talking to the guy, and the executioner says, don't blame me, it's not my fault. It's not even my calling. My father was the executioner. My father's father, also known as my grandfather, was an executioner. So this is kind of a family business. It helps me sleep better at night knowing that what I'm doing is I'm executing terrible, horrible, criminal people. So would you mind telling me your story? And the guy says, look, it's got me into nothing but trouble to tell my story. I'd rather not tell my story. If you don't mind, just go ahead and do your job. And the executioner said, I wouldn't do that if I were you, because I can make this quick and painless, or I can make it slow and painful. So if I ask you to tell me your story, I think it's probably in your best interest to do exactly what I say. So the guy says, okay, that's fine. I was working on this banana boat, and the boat went out of business, and I got this pink slip to get another job. I couldn't read the slip.
Speak up!
I couldn't read the slip, so I asked a lady on the street, and she went, ah, and fainted. Then this man, he started beating on me. A cop broke it up. He sent me to the desk sergeant. He sent me to the... Actually, now that I'm loud, I've missed it. I was working on... Backwards, okay. I was working on this banana boat, and the boat went out of business. I got this pink slip to get another job. I couldn't read the slip, so I asked a lady on the street. She said, ah, and fainted. Then this man, he started beating on me. A cop broke it up, sent me to get booked at the police station. I went to the desk sergeant. Desk sergeant pressed charges. He sent me to the public defender, my lawyer, who I trusted. I threw myself on the mercy of the court and pleaded guilty. The judge found me guilty and sentenced me to death. So that's my story. The executioner asked, may I see the slip? The guy says, sure, why not? Takes it out of his pocket, gives it to the executioner, reads it, folds it up, gives it back to the guy and says, great, now I can do the deed and not have to worry. So there's a whole process, but we'll fast forward through that also. The guy is executed. That does not end the story, because upon execution, he goes up to the pearly gates, and there he sees and encounters and meets, for the first time, St. Peter. And St. Peter is looking at the intake sheet and says, you're not on our list. We weren't expecting you. Did you die of natural causes? No, I didn't die of natural causes. I was executed, says the guy. And St. Peter says, well, all right, well, will you tell me your story? I'd like to hear why you're here, because we weren't expecting you. And the guy says, believe me, I wasn't expecting to be here either. Here's my story. Sad but true. St. Peter, I was working on a banana boat, and the boat went out of business, and I got this pink slip to get another job. I couldn't read the slip, so I asked a lady on the street. She said, ah, and fainted. Then this man, he started beating on me. A cop broke it up. He took me to the station where I was booked. I then went to the desk sergeant, and they decided to press charges. I couldn't afford a lawyer, so they appointed a public defender for me. I trusted my lawyer. My lawyer told me, plead guilty, throw myself on the mercy of the court. That's exactly what I did. The judge heard the evidence, heard my guilty plea, and sentenced me to death. I pretty much had to talk the executioner into killing me. I'm now dead, and here I am. It's been a horrible experience. Please let me in. St. Peter says, well, not so fast. May I see the slip? And the guy says, sure, why not? So he reaches into his pocket, pulls out the slip. St. Peter looks at the slip, folds it back up, gives it to the guy. And St. Peter says, I'm sorry, but in light of what you've told me and what's on that slip, I must condemn you to the pits below. That's. I mean, St. Peter didn't say go to hell or anything, but that's exactly what happens. Not just essentially. St. Peter condemned him, sent him below, subterranean, if you will. You'd think that's the end of the story, but it's not. Because our guy...
We'll continue the story in... no, we're okay. You have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so our guy proceeded down to the depths below, to the inferno, if you will. Let me set the stage for you a little bit, because it's important. For those of you who have not been to hell, it's very hot. There are fire things shooting out all over the place. It is, I mean, it's hotter than Palm Desert in the middle of the summer. It is really hot there. So the guy goes down there and, as I said, really hot, horribly hot, painfully hot, excruciatingly hot. And so the first thing the guy does is he notices there are other people down there as well, and they're all just in their skivvies, in their boxers, in their knickers, in their underwear. They don't walk around naked, but the layers of clothing that doesn't fit there. So the first thing he does is he takes off all of his clothing, shoes, socks, pants, shirt. He leaves on his knickers, his underpants, his underwear, and puts everything, folds it kind of nicely, puts it by a rock. It's really hot there, and he starts to make his way around and ask, if he can see somebody, if he can talk to somebody, where is he going to sleep, what's he going to do? He doesn't really know the lay of the land. And so he's looking for some guidance. And they summon the devil, Lucifer, Satan, the head honcho, to come to proceed with an orientation. You'll have to wait for the third phase to hear about that encounter. It's worth the wait. Hang on.